Devin Rose here, wanted to share with you something very exciting. I have written a fiction book, the first in what I hope to be a series, and the book is called Chasing the Seeds, as you see here. Just released, and want to share with you the story behind the book. What is the book about? Why I wrote the book, how I wrote the book, um, interesting tidbits, what to expect from it. This has been an exciting work for me, and it's almost, it's like when you work on something secretly for a long time, then you get to reveal it, and it's there's a lot of anticipation that I felt, and that's how I think about it. So, what is this book about? Atheist computer programmer living in Austin, he's in his mid-20s, discovers a clue in his deceased father's book, a book that his father used to read. It's a riddle, and it puts him on a scavenger hunt for the next clue. He knows, or he thinks, this clue is going to lead to something important to his father's legacy, in a sense, because his father died under strange circumstances. Well, the young man, whose name's Edmund, and yes, that's also the name of my son. They're not related. It's coincidental, but I like the name Edmund, so I decided to use it. A rogue FBI agent also finds out that this young man, Edmund, found the clue, and he knows something about it as well from past history. He begins pursuing Edmund. Edmund's best friend, Robert, is Catholic. So 20-something-year-old young men, and they are fleeing, and the rogue FBI agent is after them. It ends up spanning around the world, this chase. It culminates in the discovery of his father's legacy and what it is. So, I'm not going to give away, of course, what happens, what that legacy is, but briefly, even just jumping to, it's got a few reviews already, and all of them are good. Actually, I'm really impressed by each of these, the things that the reviewers saw. Yeah, and this was a funny one here. If you like thrillers along the lines of Dan Brown without the heresy and blasphemy, or Clive Cussler without the smut, then this book's definitely one to check out. So I thought that was, pretty interesting that he thought about that, because I've never actually read the Da Vinci Code by Dan Brown. It seemed like everyone was reading it. I knew it was blasphemous. I didn't want to read it. I didn't see the movie. I didn't want to give 1 cent to that book. That said, obviously it was a hit book. And there's even a book that I read on storytelling, and it used books and movies from popular culture and actually talked about that book's story structure and why the story structure matches a classic story structure. Now, of course, it's garbage, it's blasphemous, but the story structure was good. You can, tell an evil story with a good story structure, or a true, noble, good, beautiful story, with a good story structure, which is what I've tried to do here. And to that end, so this book, it talks about Bitcoin. Bitcoin comes up in it. A bank run happens and a bank holiday, and they have to use Bitcoin. A central bank digital currency is discussed. The Catholic faith also comes up because 2 of the characters end up being Catholic in the book. The main character is not, he's an atheist. But these are all woven into the story. So you don't have to care or like Bitcoin to enjoy the story. You don't have to care or like Catholics to, or be Catholic. I wanted to write something, though, that I could read, that my son could read, who's a teenager, that would be clean. And by clean, I mean there's no profanity, there's no sexual stuff, there's no blasphemy. There's some violence in it. As you see on the cover, there's a man with a gun chasing another man. The bad guy's bad and he does bad things, but it's not in a creepy, weird type of way. And he's not profane about it. He uses his words and says he's going to do bad things, but uses better words for it. So I actually wrote this book over the past year and a half, including when my daughter Josephine was in the hospital. Some of y'all know she passed away from relapsed leukemia in December of 2023. And I actually wrote this book in the hospital with her. And you might think, how could you do that when your daughter's there? Well, when you have leukemia, you're in the hospital for months. The main thing you do is you sit there. You sit there and do nothing. And actually, my daughter could not leave sometimes her own room. She could not leave the ward she was in, could not leave the 6th floor, the oncology ward, could not leave it for days, weeks, and weeks. So we just sit there and we make up stuff to do. And we sometimes the childlike people come in, they want to play a game. We'll do that. We'll go down to the little playroom. Uh, we read books together. I read the Wing Feather series basically aloud to her uh, in the hospital. Well, so then I would write. She of course wants some time too. She's drawing and would draw in color and read. Well, I'd write chapters in the book, and then I would read them to her and got her take on them. So she got a kick out of that. I'm not actually sure if I do read sample, it might show the. Okay, it looks like. Oh no, maybe it'll let me do it. Let's see. Yeah, here's the dedication to my daughter Josephine, month and date of her birth and death, Ave Crux Spes Unica, Hail the Cross, our only hope, which is on her gravestone. So this book is dedicated to her. And so it's clean. My 14-year-old son could read it. There's a lack of good books that are interesting, but don't have something really problematic in them. You've probably noticed this if you have children, and they want to read something that's gripping, they want engrossing, serious, but you don't want stuff that's very objectionable and vulgar. So, this in this story too, all of the characters, but especially the main one, he has some transformations. So in a story, you have the outward or external journey, right? You call it journey of achievement or the external journey. In this case, he wants to find out who his father was. But then there's an interior journey too. And for Edmund, he's got several. I won't go into all of them, but he has become a loner and he needs to learn to trust other people and welcome their help. He lost his father, and so when he was 12 years old, and so there's a hole there, and he knows that he's missed out. And even when his father was alive, his father was a bit distracted, you might say. And then because this is going to be a series, it's called the Fiefdom Chronicles. More on that later. He's going to go on a journey over the course of the whole series. So not just within each book, there's an interior journey and an exterior one, but across the entire series. For Edmund, one of those is going to be he's an atheist. He's going to be confronted with evil. He's going to be confronted with tragedy and terrible things happening to him and his loved ones. And he's going to have to face that existentially. What does it mean that, he's nihilistic? He thinks that there's nothing when you die and that nothing really matters ultimately. You die and you're worm food. He's going to come face to face with the consequences of that belief. And what's going to happen? Well, we'll find out. I'm still writing the books. I've actually written the second book, drafted it. I'm going through editing passes. And then, just like with this book, a professional editor edits it before it's published. So I'm hoping by the end of the year, the second book will come out and go from there. I think probably 5 or 6 books will be in this series. And I already scoped out the whole series, meaning there's a well-intended beginning. Of course, this book is it, but then a very well thought out ending. Now, I don't know how it's going to, the path to getting there is varied. And as you write each book, it's things happen and they change. And, you don't exactly know what the characters are going to do. It almost like, even though you're the one who thinks of it, the goal is that the characters become real enough where sometimes they might surprise you. Like you think, oh, well, it's going to happen this way, but no, that character, based on their personality and motivations and interests and the moment, reacts, and usually in a way that's unexpected from what maybe some of the other people think they will. So I know what ultimately is going to happen in the books, but what events in each book are going to get them there, we'll find out. There is the rogue FBI agent is rogue because he doesn't just report to the FBI. Those are his official bosses, and they're pretty tame. He reports to a secretive organization, a globalist organization. And that organization has nefarious goals for humanity in the world. I know this sounds crazy, right? 5 years ago, people would have said that's a conspiracy theory. Now, no, it's that we know about this. They've actually come out and said we have nefarious goals for the world. They don't say nefarious, but all the things they say are nefarious. They don't think they're nefarious. They think they're good, I presume. Um, well, so in this fictitious book, we imagine what those people might do, and it's going to be up to the heroes. And I say the heroes because Edmund has his best friend. He also gains a mentor along the way, and then he meets a lovely young woman. She's also Catholic. And in the subsequent books, this forms a bit of the core group who are going to be up against this powerful globalist force. David and Goliath type of story. How can they possibly beat these guys who have, all the money, all the power, all the influence, the media, everything? Well, stay tuned. So this book, you might consider this dystopian. I don't think of it really as dystopian just because there's no zombies, but it's dystopian in the sense of realistically these things could happen and would lead to bad things happening in the world. Now, ultimately, good would come from that, but along the way, well, it might be pretty tough. I'm grateful to say that actually the book hit number one in all three of its categories. So you can choose three categories for your book, and Amazon has all these categories. I did research trying to figure out what does this fall into, and it really is a thriller. Even though I think of thriller, I don't know. I think of other things when I think of thriller, but it is a thriller, and so it's a techno thriller. That's one where you might the book might go into a great detail on some particular topic. Like the book's about it's a fictitious book about stopping earthquakes, and you learn all about earthquakes because the earthquake earth science guy tells you about it. And it's also a financial thriller because it does involve the banking system, the Federal Reserve and the European Central Bank, kind of battling it out, which increases in the next book. Bitcoin, a central bank digital currency. So there's these ideas that come into play in the book and affect the story. So it counts as a financial thriller. And then whenever I chose the category, I don't think I chose Christian suspense. I think I said something else, but nonetheless, there's no like the way they do the categories. There's not quite an accurate thing that depicts what this is. So this third one was kind of the closest it could get, but it's hit number one. I'm grateful for that, and appreciative of it. And these reviews are cool. He says that the characters are relatable. There's a mix of themes, right? There's technology, but there's also friendship, faith, government. Um, And I think this is accurate too. He said the authors, that's me. The writing comes across as casual and smart, not difficult to engage with. Yes, this is not meant to be, Herman Melville and Moby Dick. If you've ever read that, you have a extremely dense type of writing, difficult. I'm not saying you shouldn't read it. It's not a book that I personally uh, like that much, nor other stuff that Melville wrote. But this is like realistic fiction, contemporary, and so it's meant to be very straightforward in that sense, and not trying to be arcane or obtuse. 4-star review here: page turning adventure, heartwarming relationships, real life topics of forgiveness, grief, love, and friendship. We looked at this one earlier. This is funny. Rose breaks new ground with seeds. Get it? New ground. And he's read my apologetics stuff. There's Tolkien-esque riddles, a coming of age thriller. Um, Fast paced, enjoyable, great for teen adults. Couldn't put it down. Yeah, so that's a little bit about the first book, and I won't spoil it for you. What happens? Some people have figured out what is depicted on the cover of the book, which is a real life place. I had heard about this place and thought, I need to incorporate that somehow in a book. Hilariously enough, I talked with a good Catholic friend back in Austin, and he said, I've always wanted to write a dystopian book with that place in it. And I told him, I said, look, there's plenty of room for 2 dystopian books with that place. And he's a smart guy and very inventive, so I hope he does it. Check the book out. It's on Amazon. It's free for a short time. By the time you see this, it won't be free on Kindle. Paperback is affordable, but it was free when I launched it, and I'll set it to a bargain price for a time, probably 99 cents, then raise it to the normal price. The normal price is still going to be affordable. Maybe it's $2.99, $4.99. I'm not sure. All right. Thanks a lot. God bless.